a system approaching perfection.
We'll walk deeper into the belly of the beast if it means I'm able.
All right, man, this is Danny at the Crypto Show, and I'm here at Consensus 2018 talking with a great gentleman here we've actually had on the show before, who has quite a positive outlook despite all of the mudslinging in this space. This is Jameson Lopp. Well, Jameson, tell us what you do with Bitcoin.
Sure. I've been full-time in the Bitcoin space for about 3 years now, really focusing on security, doing back-end infrastructure, app development, and recently switched to a new startup called Casa. So I spent 3 years at BitGo really doing enterprise-level security, helping a lot of large companies, exchanges, payment processors secure their hot wallets, which is pretty much a nightmare trying to do.
Yeah. That's the actually framework behind like BitPay and things like that. Without BitCo, BitPay doesn't work, correct?
Let's see. BitPay has their own infrastructure. We have like Bitstamp and had Kraken and a number of other large exchanges.
Bitso in Mexico.
Yeah. At this point, it's really more exchanges than I could even keep count. But I've pivoted and am actually focused on individual cold storage security. So at Casa, we're building a new type of multi-sig non-custodial wallet where we're really trying to have the ease of use of a mobile app, but the security of a hardware key signing device. And so we're doing that by basically having a 3 of 5 multi-sig wallet where your software is all on your phone, very easy to interface with, but all the actual key storage and signing operations will be done on multiple different hardware devices.
Kind of like CoPay, or?
It's like CoPay, except it's hardware backed.
On your phone?
You will have one key in your secure element on your phone, but then you'll have several other hardware devices that you'll be able to either bring your own, like Trezor, Ledger, KeepKey, what have you.
Stash Node. Have you seen these? Or?
Yeah, we eventually want to support any popular hardware signing device.
Oh, awesome.
We're going to start off with Trezor and Ledger.
Oh, cool. So you coined a phrase in the space here that I love. It's very positive. Co-opetition. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's just a concept that I came across, I guess, about a year ago, that while competition is great, we're all fans of free market. I believe that, we think that competition results in people having better products and services. When you're talking about a network or a small ecosystem like crypto, where it's very young, we're still trying to grow it, then you don't want to only compete with each other because you're basically fighting over the pie that's this big. If you can cooperate with each other, then you can actually grow the size of the pie. Yeah. So it's great if you can cooperate to grow the ecosystem, and then you can compete later to fight over a bigger pie.
Right.
So in the end, like, everybody should end up winning more.
Right. I think we actually interviewed Craig Wright, and that was one of the things he said is, guys, Bitcoin Cash, you guys aren't actually competition. The credit cards and banks, that's your competition. And I kind of see the same thing in the space where, Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, to me it's like two kids in a sandbox kicking sand at each other, and they're scaring away all the rest of the kids in the playground. I mean, what's your thoughts on that? I mean, how do you think we'd be farther along if they weren't poking jabs at each other?
I think that the vast majority of the people that are spending a lot of their resources yelling and arguing each other over this stuff are probably not the ones who are building the system in the first place.
Exactly.
So I don't think that it really hurts that much from the perspective of the growth of the system. Now, of course, you do end up with outsiders who they might look at it and say, "Oh, look at all this toxicity.
Right.
I don't want to be involved in that." So that could definitely slow the pace of adoption a bit if people might be turned off to it. But I think that if we build strong technology, then it is pretty much inevitable that people will adopt it. But I take a much longer term view to adoption than I think a lot of others do. I'm looking at this not from just a few years, but really from a generational or multi-generational standpoint.
Right. What do you see as far as banks and things like that getting involved? Because last week I was at the NACHA, which is the National Automated Clearinghouse Association, basically This is one of the main sponsors was the Federal Reserve, and the stone's throw away from them was Ripple.
Yeah.
But in talking to all these people, I find that Bitcoin was a bad word. Blockchain good, Bitcoin bad. And literally, they would not talk to me on camera about blockchain or Bitcoin.
Well, that's because banks already have well-established trust relationships with each other, and I think it makes sense that what they would be looking at doing is basically recreating those pre-existing relationships with a new technology.
Right.
And so that's why it's not as interesting to them to switch to a completely trustless, permissionless system. They don't necessarily see the value there. And in fact, they may believe that they're losing a bit too much by ceding control of the system to this sort of amorphous
yeah, I mean, surely they see how technology advances, then that they're kind of the dinosaur in this space, in the financial system completely. Where do you think they go from here?
But even within the banking system, it's going to be diverse. I think that it's the Federal Reserve in Kansas, maybe, that has been putting out some interesting pro-Bitcoin, pro-crypto materials. So even within the traditional financial system, there will be some people that get it.
Right.
And perhaps they will then be able to explain it and spread the sort of mind virus of Bitcoin within the banking system. Or maybe the banking system continues along and basically creates these new intranets, which we saw them do back in the 90s. I think a lot of banks were more interested in intranets than they were the internet. And history may just end up repeating itself, where eventually it becomes so mind-bogglingly obvious that you want to use the internet, you want to use Bitcoin or public permissionless crypto, that their customers are going to be demanding it, and they won't really have any choice but to support it.
Awesome. All right, man. I think we covered quite a bit. Do you have any advice for people who want to get involved in cryptocurrencies?
The main thing is that you should invest in education before you invest financially,
Right.
because otherwise you can very easily lose everything.
Yeah. Be sure to buy at the all-time high, right?
If you do, it's best to hodl.
There you go. All right, man. Thanks.
My pleasure.
All right.